What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Chris the Entertainah. Come on, let me get a stand up. Let me get one.
Stand up, New York Giants fans. I love that intro, by the way. That's awesome.
I appreciate it. Yes, sir. Happy to have you on. Today, we are going to be talking about the Giants' expectations entering the regular season after what was an exceedingly strong preseason. Blew my expectations out of the water. A lot to take away from that preseason, but Chris and I, we want to look ahead, look to the regular season, and also share with you guys some information that I've discussed on the channel before, but we really want to unpack this Bizarre Music Festival meetup that Chris and I are going to be hosting. And so that's where we're going to start with this thing, and then we'll talk some Giants. So bear with us, but we do want to mention you guys can meet us, hang out with us, watch Giants versus Commanders with us. It's an exciting opportunity. Opening weekend at the Bizarre Music Festival. And Chris, I'm really happy to be doing this with you.
Oh, I can't wait, man. It's gonna be exciting. I've done a couple of collaborations live with Bobby Skinner, Justin, but I've never done like a watch along for a live game. I've been to a game with Bad Dog, but this will be my first time actually being in like a bar environment. Hopefully surrounded by lots of Giants fans. Hopefully not too many Jets fans at the music festival, and I'll get to enjoy the game with you. And big game. I mean, divisional game, week 1 against the Commanders, like you said, and we'll talk about it throughout this video. Expectations maybe shot up a little bit based off that preseason. So can't wait to see what the team looks like week 1, and it's going to be a lot of fun talking Giants with you.
Yeah, I can't wait for it, and I can't wait to watch it with a bunch of Giants fans who view our channels. It was fun over at training camp running into people who were like, oh, Fireside Giants, I watch you guys every day, and that was so cool and humbling. But now I'm excited for this music festival because this is going to be an opportunity for you all to watch us do one of these shows live and in person. We'll be interacting with you. You'll probably get your name shouted out on the channel during those live streams, and then we get to watch the Giants game together. So you get to watch, let's say the Giants lose, Chris and I are going to have a meltdown in front of everybody. But when we hit that, Abdul Carter first sack of his career on Jaden Daniels, we all get to get excited together. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
I expect at least 2 from Carter week 1. He's been talking about that he needs a haircut. Well, I expect he's going to get his haircut week 1. I'm looking forward to it.
I think we need to get a barber on the sideline for him.
I agree. He's going to need a barber.
Every time he gets a sack.
I expect a lot of sacks from Carter.
Yeah, every time he gets a sack, the guy just starts lining up his hair every single Sunday. Just there's always a guy on the sideline with some clippers.
For sure.
So that'd be fun. And again, guys, with this Bizarre Music Festival, link everything down below in the description box. Go get some tickets to the GA Plus using the code Fireside Giants. You'll get a nice discount. Actually, the code is Big Blue. You'll get a discount. So use that code. And then, like I said, the music festival is great. Lots of awesome music. Some cool rock bands are going to be there. And then, of course, yours truly, myself, and Chris. So make sure you don't miss it out and go check it out down below in the description box.
See you there.
All right. See you guys there. And now we'll talk some Giants and look ahead to this regular season. So, Chris, I know you did your play-by-plays, you did your live commentary, and you also, just like me, got way too hyped up when you saw Jackson Dart throwing all those touchdowns. But we're not expecting to see Jackson Dart in week 1. We're going to see Russell Wilson. We're going to see the starters. What are your expectations for those guys after a preseason that I thought was really strong from the starting units on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, listen, last preseason we had 30 combined points, I think it was, through the 3 games. The Giants put up 107. We talked about it on our joint Giants channel, Giants Collective, and you and me were really outspoken about it about a week leading up into that first preseason game, that we really wanted to see the starters play a good amount of reps in the preseason, especially due to recent history with this football team and how poor of a starts they've gotten off to, right? You think back to that Cowboys game 2 years ago where we got walloped 40-0. Last year, it felt just as bad against Minnesota. I think we lost 28-6. But in both scenarios, we look completely unprepared. I leave the preseason. I don't know if I'm going to raise my expectations in terms of thinking this team is going to make the playoffs this year, because I think there's a lot of unknowns, but that's the beauty of the NFL. I didn't think we were making the playoffs in 2022 either, so it's certainly a possibility. But I leave the preseason feeling like this team is going to be a lot more prepared to open up the year than they've been in quite some time. And it's important that they are, because schedule doesn't let up. We know that. And early on, you got 2 divisional opponents to start the year, both on the road with the Commanders and Cowboys before you face the Chiefs. So they better be ready week 1. And I do think that Dable, Kafka, and the rest of the coaching staff has this team ready to go. Russell Wilson, didn't see a ton of him, but when we did, he looked pretty good. I mean, you think about that deep ball he hit, but I think it was for 80 yards, about a 63-yard pass in the air. We're not used to seeing that. We saw obviously the backups do it as well. Jackson Dart was the all-star, but like you said, we know we're not going to see him week 1. But it's hard to get a full grasp based off preseason because we all know the playbooks are dummied down. Sometimes it's first team versus second team. But regardless, the defensive line, especially in that first game to me, really stood out. And if we're speaking specifically about the first unit, they look tremendous in that first game. And we know that's going to be the strength of this team. And if they could generate pressure against Jaden Daniels like we were able to do last year, I do think the Giants are going to make this a football game. I really do. I think it's going to be a close game week 1 against the Commanders.
I do too. I think this Giants team is set up to be really competitive in the division. Obviously, the Eagles are the Eagles. They're coming off of a Super Bowl win. They have a great lineup. But when you look at Dallas and when you look at Washington, these are not perfect rosters by any means. I think there are holes on those teams that in the first 2 weeks of the season, the Giants can definitely expose some of the cracks. And they can definitely get in there with this pass rush and the potential that it has. I think that's one of the things from the preseason. We saw the potential of this pass rush because we saw Abdul Carter really flash some things on a few pass rushing reps. We saw Brian Burns all throughout training camp and a couple of preseason reps really flash some things. Even Kayvon Thibodeau had some nice plays, and Dexter Lawrence wasn't even on the field. So you think about how that's going to open things up for those other pass rushers, let alone how dominant he is. I just don't see a world where this defense isn't good enough to be at least top 15, hopefully a top 10 unit in the NFL. And for that reason, my expectations of this team really have risen throughout the summer.
Yeah, I definitely think my expectations have risen as well. I'm still trying to keep it somewhat, a rational take because I do still look at the schedule and see how challenging it is. But I am at the point now where I think the Giants could compete with most teams in the NFL. That doesn't mean that they should be the favorite to win in a lot of these games, but I think most of our games this year are going to be competitive. I don't think the Giants are going to be a pushover like they've been in years past. When you could get after the quarterback the way that this unit, I believe, is going to be able to do, I'll take it a step further, Anthony. You said that we should be at a bare minimum a top 15 defense. On paper, when you look at this pass rush, Anthony, and the improvements in the secondary, there's no excuses for this not to be a top 10 defense. And I think they could be even higher if the offense helps them out a bit. We all know complementary football, if the offense exceeds expectations, that's only going to make the defense look better. But I think the defense is, I'm not going to say it's a complete unit yet. I still think that there's a couple more pieces they need to really make this a Super Bowl caliber defense, such as a long-term middle linebacker, maybe a little bit more help in that secondary. But this pass rush is legit. You look around the NFL, and I know I'm projecting a bit with Abdul Carter, but the talent is there. It's as clear as day. And you add a guy like that to this front seven with Dexter Lawrence, who we could all agree when he's on the field is as good as anybody on the interior, along with Brian Burns, who's a tremendous pass rusher in his own right, and Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, that should have offensive coordinators scared to death every week when they go up against this team. And I really do think they're going to come out ready to roll week 1. And not to mention with Washington, something that may play to the Giants' favor. We all know that they just traded Brian Robinson, but the Terry McLaurin situation still isn't concluded yet. And he may very well play week 1, but even if he does, you have to figure the fact that he hasn't been practicing, holding out, he's going to come out a bit rusty. So that could play to the Giants' favor as well.
It certainly can. I think it was Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator of the Commanders. I believe he said that they haven't been able to go full go at practice because Terry McLaurin's not there. They're missing a lot of reps between him and Jaden Daniels that they need to make up some ground, and they're not going to be able to in time for week 1. So you're right. Even if he's on the field, I think there's going to be some rust. I think there could be some miscommunications, some timing issues, and I think the Giants can take advantage, especially because of their pass rush. And, when you look at the potential of this pass rush, like we just said, this could be a top 5 defense because of this defensive line, the reinforcements in the secondary and all of that. And I know I said way back on Giants Collective, one of the times we were live over there, if this is a top 5 defense, all we need is a top 15, just an upper half of the league offense. And why can't this be a playoff team? And I feel a lot more confident that that's possible after the preseason because the play calling from Mike Kafka was really clean. I know it's vanilla defenses and coverages, but it's also vanilla offenses and play calling too. So just for him to be not even reaching deep in his bag, but applying such rhythm and creating such tempo. And some of the designs were really impressive too for a vanilla offense. I feel a lot more confident in the play calling out of Mike Kafka going into the season than I have over the last 2 years as we've watched this team pretty much play in misery on the offensive side of the ball. And a lot of it definitely has to do with the upgrades at the quarterback room. But I really feel like there is a good chance this can at least be a league average offense with some upside to maybe be even better if Malik Neighbors goes for the Triple Crown, as you and I both expect he will.
I'm not going to go there yet in terms of better than average. I think that's like where I'm setting the absolute bar. Although I will say, if Jackson Dart is the real deal, well, then the sky's the limit, right? We've seen what an elite quarterback can do, like Jaden Daniels did last year for the Commanders offense. I mean, that offense became really bad to really good overnight. So we all know how important the quarterback position is. I just don't want to set those expectations for a rookie quarterback year one. So I'm going into the year hoping that they could be at least close to average, because I think the defense will be above average. And that would mean that the Giants, I think most weeks, are going to give themselves an opportunity to compete. And ultimately for me, I agree with you. I think the play calling is going to be good this year because there's an improvement at the quarterback position, and the improvement at the quarterback position is also going to help the offensive line. We all know that Russell Wilson is going to be much better than Daniel Jones ever was in terms of pre-snap ability. And a guy like Jackson Dart, the thing that has stood out to me when he does inevitably get to see the field this year, his pocket awareness, man, and that's only going to make an offense look better. So the offensive line in particular. So I don't disagree that they have the potential to be a league average offense. I don't want to take it further than that. It's baby steps for me. But if they're league average, like you said, if this defense could even approach top 10 territory, the Giants may have a surprising year similar to that of 2022. There's no doubt about it. But ultimately, for me, it always comes down to the offensive line. But I think some of the improvements, specifically at the quarterback position, is going to help assist the offensive line to look a lot better. But Andrew Thomas has to stay healthy.
100%. The offensive line is exactly where I was going next with this, so I'm glad you brought that up. Andrew Thomas, so much hinges on him, but I will say this. I feel a little bit better about the depth on the offensive line this time around. I have not felt confident in it at all over the past few years, but right now, after seeing the way that the offensive line performed, the first, second, third team, even the fourth stringers who were out there during the preseason, I mean, we got really good performances all across the offensive line, game in and game out, quarter in and quarter out, Marcus Bowe being the standout. And he has given me a lot more relief now, knowing if Andrew Thomas does miss time, yes, we have depth with James Hudson, but also there's potential for this Marcus Bowe to step in and look pretty good. And that's some upside on the offensive line that the Giants just simply have not had over the last couple of years. They haven't had a young guy developing this quickly and looking this impressive in the preseason. Even with John Michael Schmitz when he was a rookie, highly touted prospect coming out of Minnesota. Evan Neal when he was a highly touted prospect coming out of Alabama. We were talking about, all right, well, they're rookies. They're still learning. That was the narrative in the preseason. Narrative just hasn't necessarily changed much. But for Marcus Bowe, coming out of the preseason, the narrative is, wow, this guy is really impressive for a rookie. So it's a nice change of pace from what we've seen in the last few years.
Even Andrew Thomas, if you recall, his rookie year really struggled in the preseason in his rookie year. Now, a lot of people attributed that to the foot injury that we found out about later, I think after his rookie season. But even he didn't look great his rookie year. He, of course, now is great, and we all know how important he is to this football team. But yeah, for me, arguably the most encouraging thing about this preseason is Marcus Bowe. And I don't expect, like Jackson Dart, I don't expect him to start. But just to have a guy that you feel is a very capable swing tackle, which it appears he may very well be, which is funny because a lot of people thought when he was coming into the pros after the Giants drafted him, he's going to translate better at the guard spot. To me, he looked fine at the tackle spot. Now, again, like you said, hard to fully judge. He's not going up against the first team defenses in a lot of those scenarios, but the potential is certainly there. He's mean off the right side or left side or wherever he's playing. He's a mean tackle. So I'm excited to see if he does get an opportunity this year. And like you said, if the Giants do sustain an injury, well, you're not replacing Andrew Thomas. He's a guy that you at least feel may be capable of not destroying the season if he has to step in and play the position. In recent years, when we had to play Justin Pugh off the couch and put him at left tackle, or play Josh Azudu out of position and play him at left tackle, it completely destroyed the offense. We went from a bad offense to an historically bad offense when Andrew Thomas wasn't in the lineup. The hope is with a guy like Marcus Bowe or possibly Hudson, if he's the guy that initially steps in, that the Giants will at least have a capable swing tackle. And they certainly made that a focal point, both in free agency and the draft this year, to shore up the depth on the line.
Yeah, depth is everything. And I think the depth has improved on the offensive line. The defensive line maybe still has some weaknesses on the interior, but I mean, that edge depth is really good. I think the Giants have some pieces in the secondary that provide quality depth. But I want to go back to the offense and kind of flip something. So we talked
Yep.
about how the offensive line being improved is an elevator of the floor of this team, I think. But what really elevates the ceiling of an offense is the playmakers. And so I kind of want to get your perspective on the playmaking group. Malik Neighbors is the crown jewel, of course. But we've also got improvements in the backfield, and we also have Darius Slayton. We can talk about Alexander in a second, but Darius Slayton had a bit of a quiet preseason, but he's like a Toyota Camry. He's a reliable car. He's always going to give you that 750 yards every year. And then I do like Wan'Dale Robinson after last year, but I do wonder if the playmaking core is quite enough to be fully maximized and take this offense past that average threshold, as we mentioned. So that's kind of what I'm curious about. But a star receiver like Malik Neighbors can do a lot for an offense.
Yeah, I think it's a satisfactory playmaking core, as you called it, overall. I don't think it's an elite playmaking core by any stretch. I think we have an elite playmaker with Malik Neighbors, who I've said countless times on our show. I think he's the most talented wide receiver in the league. And if he's not, he's certainly top 3 or 4. He's in that tier at this point. He looked phenomenal last year. He exceeded 1,200 yards in 15 games with 4 different quarterbacks, 3 of which probably won't be playing in the NFL very soon. So he had a tremendous rookie season. And I know he got pelleted with a lot of targets, but if you have eyes, you can see how capable he is. He's a dynamic wide receiver, and he's only going to get better. The only issue with him is the injury concerns, right? I know he's had the foot problems, so you worry about that long term with him. But when he's on the field, he's as good as anybody. I do think long term, as I've discussed with you, they need to find a legitimate, and that's not to downplay Darius Slayton. I actually have grown to really like Darius Slayton. I think he's incredibly underappreciated by a lot of the members of this fan base. I was happy when they were able to bring him back. I was surprised that we were able to get him back because I thought he would look to potentially sign on with a Super Bowl contender. He's a good receiver, but you look around the league, you look at the Bengals, for example, he's not T. Higgins. You look at the Eagles, for example, he's not that level, right? He's not a Devontae Smith. They need that 1B to the 1A. And I don't think Slayton's quite there. That doesn't mean he can't be a part of the equation, but I do think long-term, if they want to become an elite offense, they're probably going to need another big-time pass catcher. But a guy I'm excited about, who I do think could end up being the second best weapon in this passing game this year, is Theo Johnson. He started to come on last year as a rookie. Then he got hurt. He's been used sparingly in the preseason, but we saw that Russ favored him a lot on that first drive. The first game, he had 3 catches on that first drive. He's explosive. So he's a guy that I could see becoming a big weapon for this offense as the year progresses. But I still think long-term, they probably need one more dynamic piece in this offense.
I do agree with that. I think when we do get through the season and we're heading into the 2026 offseason, one of the biggest needs is going to be playmaker, whether that's a WR2 or another tight end or whatever, probably a WR2, because I also do really like Theo Johnson. I think he has a lot of potential to break out this season. I think we've got breakout potential on Theo Johnson and on Tyrone Tracy Jr. / Cam Scadaboo, whoever really comes on in the second half of the year and runs with it. But I think a lot of people do sleep on Tyrone Tracy. I think you were saying this actually on Collective last night. The flashy rookie in Scadaboo has some people and fantasy drafts. Yeah, it was you saying this, kind of overlooking Tyrone Tracy in some ways. But fans need to remember he went for 1,100 yards from scrimmage last year in 12 starts as a rookie. And rushing wise, in those 12 starts, he was on pace to be a 1,000-yard rusher if you extrapolate his averages across a 17-game season. He's a legit talent. And now that he is the lead back and the starter, and I'm of the belief that he's going to remain that. I think Scadaboo works in as a complementary piece. But when you're looking at Tyrone Tracy and what he did last year, put that over a 17-game sample size. He should be a 1,000-yard rusher, and the Giants should have an easy 1,000-yard receiver. The whole offense really should be revamped and so much smoother this year, which is, again, why my expectations are definitely starting to elevate.
Yeah, like you said, I was talking about it. We were recapping my fantasy draft from last week, which was way too early, by the way. August 17th. If anybody in my fantasy league is listening, ridiculous. You got to back it up next year. But the fact that Tyrone Tracy, when I saw the rankings and I was looking at some of the running backs near him, he was ranked 32nd on my on the draft board that at least we used. And me and my brother were looking at in terms of the fantasy rankings for a PPR league. And I think Scadaboo was 34. And no disrespect to Scadaboo. I can't wait to see Scadaboo. But I think a lot of people are sleeping on Tyrone Tracy. The one thing you worry about with Tyrone Tracy is his fumbling. But he was a rookie, and he's a guy that's only played the position 1 year before last year coming into the pros. He was a wide receiver while at Purdue his entire career before his last year, before they transitioned him to that spot. I think Tyrone Tracy has big-time potential this year, and we'll have to wait and see how the offensive line holds up. But when I watch him play, I don't want to set the bar too high for him. I never like to do that, but he reminds me of Le'Veon Bell with his ability to wait for holes, his patience. I think he's a really talented running back for him to have those instincts, not play the position that very long. Like I said, he only played it a year in college. Last year was his first year in the pros. I think he's got tremendous instincts. He's just got to hold on to the football, and I would like to see him used a lot more in the passing game. You would think for a guy that was a former wide receiver, the Giants could get a lot more creative with him in the passing game this year, and if they can, he could be a big-time weapon through the air. So he's a guy that I think a lot of people are sleeping on that could be a big, big part of this offense this year, Tyrone Tracy.
Totally agreed. And it's kind of amazing that we're able to find pretty shining examples of optimism in pretty much every position group on this team right now. Running back, quarterback, offensive line, wide receiver, tight end, defensive line, linebacker, core, secondary. There's optimism to be had everywhere on this team right now. And I definitely have not been able to say that over the last few years. So my expectations are rising. My hype level is rising. My optimism is rising. I'm trying not to set the bar too high for myself because I know that I'm setting myself up for major heartbreak and disappointment. But man, I'd be lying if I said that I'm not really starting to feel that hope and belief of a potential playoff run here like in 2022. Again, not trying to get my hopes too high, but I'm starting to feel that kind of excitement. I can't lie to you.
Hey, man, that's part of being a fan, man. You can never be scared. You can never be scared to get your hopes up. That's the beauty of the NFL. It's unlike any other sport. Before the year starts, you already know going into the year, Anthony, there's going to be 3 or 4 teams that everybody is writing off right now that at the end of the year, you're like, who would have saw that coming? How did that happen? You think back to the Giants in 2022, they were one of those teams. You think back to the Cleveland Browns, I think it was 2 years ago when they had the best defense in the NFL. I think they had like 2 quarterbacks go down. They had Joe Flacco playing. They won 11 games. Minnesota last year, I don't think anybody thought they were going to win 14 games or whatever they did with Sam Darnold at quarterback. So every year there's at least 2, 3, 4 teams that do a lot better than you anticipate and 2, 3, or 4 teams that do a lot worse than you anticipate. Unfortunately, we were probably one of those teams in 2023. So that's the beauty of the NFL. There's a lot of unknowns, and you go into the year hopeful. I don't think the Giants fans should go into this year completely hopeless, regardless of how challenging this schedule looks. I think the defense is going to keep us in a lot of games, and I think we'll have opportunities to steal some games that you may not anticipate.
100% agreed. I'm very hopeful, and I think we are going to steal quite a few games this season. Schedule looks tough, but the schedule that you see even in August is not the schedule that plays out in September, October, and so on, because everything is changing constantly in the NFL. So I'm excited, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. You mentioned that's part of being a fan. Well, once again, reminder to all the fans, come be a fan with us. Opening weekend, come watch Giants versus Thank you. Come watch Giants versus Commanders with us over in Keensburg Beach, New Jersey at the Bazaar Music Festival. Once again, guys, the link is down below in the description box. Chris, I'm really excited for that event with you. And thank you once again for joining me on the channel.
Of course, man. Anytime. Looking forward to it. Come meet us. If not, at least watch it on YouTube while we hang out, watch the Giants game. Hopefully we get a win week 1. Looking forward to it. Let's get off to that 1-0 start. Let's start beating Washington the way that we're all accustomed to. I was sick to my stomach last year getting swept by that football team. Let's start it off on the right foot, start 1-0. And we all know, Anthony, I look at the stat every year after week 1. You win week 1, your chances to make the playoffs shoot up to like 75%. You lose week 1, you're like at 10 or 15 or 20% or whatever it is. So it is so important in the NFL to get off to that quick start. So week 1 is, and when you factor in it's a divisional game, it is a huge game week 1 for the New York Giants. We'll see if they can pull it out.
100%. You don't want to call it a must win, but it kind of is with the stats you just laid out. So can't wait for week 1. Can't wait to celebrate week 1 with all of you at Bazaar. So guys, also Chris's channel is going to be down below in the description box. So make sure if you haven't subscribed to him already, which I'm sure you have, go down there, check him out and subscribe. And also I'm going to leave the link to Giants Collective, which is a live show that Chris and I do with a couple other great creators every Wednesday and Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Giants Collective, make sure you check that out too. And link down below to all of our things in the description box. But leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, follow us on social media at Fireside Giants, and we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go New York Giants.
Perfect.